Ever scroll through a gigantic Excel sheet and feel completely lost? Like you're trying to follow a row across the screen and suddenly thinking, wait, which line was I on? Most people just click the row or column headers to highlight where they are. It helps a bit, but it's so easy to lose track or click the wrong thing. Today we're fixing that. We'll make the active row and column light up automatically so you always know exactly where you are. By the end of this tutorial, you'll have a cool crosshair effect following your selected cell, plus an on-off toggle switch, and even a big friendly button to control it. No more squinting or getting lost in data, I promise. And don't worry if you're new to Excel or VBA, we'll keep it super simple and fun. Alright, let's jump step by step and turn that dull spreadsheet into a laser-guided data tracker. First, let's look at how many of us already highlight rows or columns in Excel, the old-fashioned manual way. To highlight a whole row manually, you'll click on the row number on the left side. Here I clicked row 10 and Excel highlights the entire row in dab gray. To highlight a column, it's the same idea. Click the column letter at the top, for example column E, and the whole column gets selected. See that? Column E is all grayed out. What's wrong with the manual method? Well, for one, you're stuck with that default gray, no customization at all. 2, you can only highlight one direction at a time, either a row or a column, but not both. And 3, doing this repeatedly is slow and tedious. Imagine clicking row by row on a huge data set. It's like highlighting a printed table with a marker, one line at a time. Your wrist would quit in protest. Bottom line, the manual way is okay for quick checks, but we can do way better. Time to bring in some magic, conditional formatting. That's an Excel feature that can format cells, change their color, etc. automatically based on a rule. We'll use it to highlight the entire row or column of whatever cell you click. Think of it as a live highlighter that moves with you. Let's do the active row first, and then I'll show you how to tweak it for columns or both. First, choose the cells where you want this highlighting to apply, typically your whole data table. So click cell A4, hold down Control and Shift, press the right arrow, press the down arrow, and release Control and Shift keys. Go to the Home tab, click Conditional Formatting in the ribbon, and choose New Rule. A dialog box appears. In the New Rule dialog, select the option that says Use a formula to determine which cell to format. This lets us write a custom formula for the rule. Click the formula input box and type equal, row, open close parentheses, equal, cell, open parenthesis, row in double quotes, close parenthesis. This formula checks each cell's row number against the row number of the currently active cell. If they match, the formula is true, meaning yes, this cell is on the active row. Don't worry if that looks geeky. It's basically the secret sauce that tells Excel which row you're on. Now click the Format button. In the Format dialog box, go to the Fill tab, the Background Color section. Pick a nice bright color that you love, maybe a light orange or yellow, anything that will stand out. Hit OK to confirm your color selection. Back in the New Rule window, click OK to finish up. Now try it out. Click any cell in your data range. Boom! The entire row lights up in the color you chose. As you can see, the active row is now shaded orange or whatever color you picked. This highlight will follow your selected cell. Well, almost. There is a catch. If you click a different cell, the highlight doesn't move automatically. Right now, it might still be stuck in that first row that you clicked. Why? Because Excel hasn't recalculated the sheet yet. The formula cell row only updates when Excel recalculates, not simply on selection changes. So until a recalculation happens, Excel doesn't realize that you've moved to a new cell. You could force a recalculation by pressing F9 each time to update the highlight, but who wants to smack F9 every few seconds? Not me. We'll fix this problem with a tiny bit of VBA magic in a moment. For now, just remember, The conditional format works, but it needs refreshing when you change selection. Hold that thought. The solution is coming in the following step. Maybe instead of the whole row, you want to highlight the active column. No problem. We do the same thing with a slight tweak to the formula. Use the column function. And here's how. Click again on cell A4. Hold down Ctrl and Shift, press the right arrow, press the down arrow, and release Ctrl and Shift keys. Go to the Home tab, click Conditional Formatting in the ribbon, and choose New Rule. In the New Rule dialog, select the option Use a formula to determine which cells to format. Click the formula input box and type equal, column, open close parentheses, equal, cell, open parentheses, colon double quotes, close parentheses. This checks if a cell's column number is the same as the active cell's column. Now click the Format button. In the Format dialog, go to the Fill tab. Pick a light orange like before, hit OK to confirm your color selection. And back in the New Rule window, click OK to finish up. Now the active column will light up. Remember, this also won't auto-update without a recalculation for now, just like the row case. So if I press F9, we update the highlight. We will fix that later as I already said, okay? But why choose? Let's highlight the entire row and entire column of the active cell simultaneously. We can combine the two ideas with an OR formula. Let's select all the cells of our table. From Conditional Formatting, New Rule, type the following. Equal, or parentheses, row equals to cell row, comma, column equal to cell column, close parentheses. This rule will be true for any cell that is either in the active cell's row or in its column. Let's apply a format color, the same light orange as we chose before. Hit OK. Now when you click a cell, its row and column are highlighted. You'll notice this creates a crosshair or plus sign shape on the sheet marking your location. Pretty neat, huh? It's like having both a horizontal and vertical highlight that intersects your active cell. So by now, we use conditional formatting to automatically shade the active row. But optionally, the active column in a color of our choice, well, this already solves the custom color problem. No more dull gray. And the single direction problem, we can highlight it in two directions with that OR formula. However, we still have the doesn't update automatically issue. But don't worry, we're about to tackle that with VBA. So far, when we highlighted both the row and column, everything was the same color. What if we want the active cell, the exact cell we clicked, to stand out even more, like the bullseye of the crosshair? We can do that by layering two conditional formatting rules, one for the active cell itself and one for the rest of the row column. This gives a two-tone crosshairs effect. Here's how to set up the crosshairs. First, we will create a new conditional formatting rule. Yes, one more, with a formula that checks for both the same row and same column as the active cell. Let's select all the cells. From Conditional Formatting, New Rule. The formula is equal and row equal to cell row, comma, column equal to cell col. This is true only for the cell that is in the same row and column as the active cell, essentially the active cell itself. Let's click the Format button and I will choose a unique color for this, for example, a bold yellow or a dark green. This will be the color of the active cell's highlight. Now we have two rules that could apply to the active cell, so we need to set their priority. In the Conditional Formatting Rules Manager, and make sure the AND active cell rule is listed above the OR row column rule. This ensures that the active cell gets formatted by Rule 1 first, and that prevents Rule 2 from overriding it. Excel stops processing further rules on a cell once a higher rule has already applied to a format, in most cases. The Crosshairs effect is great for presentations or just keeping your eyes on the prize, the cell. Of course, we still have the issue that if you move to a new cell, the highlight or crosshair won't automatically move with you. Yet. Right now it's static until a recalculation happens. Time to fix that once and for all with a tiny dab of VBA code. Alright, it's VBA time. Don't panic. I promise this will be beginner friendly. VBA, or Visual Basics for Applications, is just Excel's built-in programming language that lets us automate things. We're going to use it to make our highlight dynamically update wherever you select a new cell, so you don't have to hit F9 or do any manual refresh. First, you need the Developer tab visible in your Excel ribbon. That's the menu bar at the top. By default, it might be hidden. To enable it, right-click on any blank area of the ribbon and choose Customize the Ribbon. In the list on the right side of the Excel options that opens, find and check the box for Developer and hit OK. Now you should see a new Developer tab appear on the ribbon. This is where the VBA goodies live. Click the Developer tab, then click the Visual Basics button. This opens the VBA editor window, which might look a bit intimidating, kind of like stepping behind the scenes of Excel. But we only need to do a couple of simple things here. In the project pane on the left, you'll see your workbook and a list of sheets. Double-click on the sheet name where your data and conditional formatting are. In my case, and probably yours, it's sheet 1. Alright, it opens its code window, okay? And don't worry about the option explicit statement that appears before any procedures. We usually use option explicit to avoid incorrectly typing the name of an existing variable, but it's out of the scope of this video, so forget about it. At the top of the code window, there are two drop-down menus. From the left drop-down, select Worksheet, and we want to program the worksheet itself. From the right drop-down, select Selection Change. This tells Excel, run some code every time the selection changes on this sheet. Excel will automatically insert a little subroutine for you that looks like this. Now, between the sub and end sub is where we'll add one line of code to do the trick. We'll click here, press tab once to indent it so it looks nicer, and type this inside the procedure. Target.Calculate and space. Press enter. That's it, just one line of code. What does Target.Calculate do? Target refers to the cell or cells that you selected, the target of the selection chain. We're telling Excel to recalculate that cell only. This forces our conditional formatting formulas, which depend on the cell row and the cell call functions, to update. Because now Excel thinks something's changed and recalculates the sheet, thus updating the highlight instantly. In plain English, every time you move to a new cell, this little VBA snippet makes Excel refresh the conditional formatting. No more pressing F9 manually, it happens automatically. Go ahead and test it out. Return to Excel, close the VBA editor, or just switch back. Now try clicking different cells. Now the colored highlight should jump to whatever row or column you click immediately. Move around rapidly. It's following you like a faithful shadow. If it's working, do a little happy dance because you just automated Excel with a single line of code. If it's not working, double check that you put the code in the correct worksheet's code window and spelled Target.Calculate correctly. One more important thing. Whenever you use VBA, you need to save your workbook as macro enabled. So go to File, Save As, and choose Excel Macro Enabled Workbook or .xlsm as the file type. Save it. This ensures that your VBA code stays with the file. Great! We've now solved the biggest issue. The highlight is automatic and dynamic. You can click anywhere in your sheet and automatically see the row and or column highlighted. Now you might be thinking, this highlighting is awesome, but what if I want to turn it off sometimes? Maybe you want to print without the highlight, or occasionally you find the color distracting. Sure, you could go into conditional formatting and delete or disable the rules, but that's not convenient to bring back. There's a smarter way. Build a simple on-off switch right into the worksheet. We'll use a drop-down data validation list as a toggle. When it's off, the highlighting rules won't apply. When it's on, they will. Pick an out-of-the-way cell for the switch, for example, cell C1, someplace above or beside your data. In the neighboring cell, like B1, you can type a label like highlight switch, so you remember what C1 is for. With cell C1 selected, this will be our toggle cell. Go to the Data tab and click Data Validation. In the Data Validation dialog under Allow, choose List. In the source box, type in the two options for our switch, separated by a comma, on, comma, off. Make sure you capitalize or spell them exactly how you want. It's case sensitive for our formula later. Click OK. Now cell C1 has a little drop-down arrow. Click the drop-down arrow in C1 and you should see the two choices, on and off. Select off for now to set the default state to off, meaning highlighting is initially disabled. Let's give this cell a name to make it easier to use in formulas. Click on cell C1 and in the little name box above the grid, left of the formula bar, type a name like highlight underscore switch with no spaces. Press enter. This names cell C1 as highlight underscore switch, which we can now use in the formula instead of a cryptic cell reference. Now we have our switch ready. Next, we'll tie it into the conditional formatting rules so it actually controls them. The idea is to add new conditional formatting rules that basically says, if the switch is off, don't highlight anything. We can do that by making a rule that stops the other rules when the switch is off. Here's how. Select the same data range that our conditional formatting applies to, so the whole table. Go to Home, Conditional Formatting, and New Rule. Use a formula to determine which cells to format. I assume that these steps are familiar to you now. In the formula box, enter a formula that checks our switch. Equal if parenthesis highlight underscore switch equal to off, comma true, comma false, close parentheses. This formula returns the true for all cells when the switch is off and false when the switch is on. Essentially, it's a condition that is true whenever we want the highlighting disabled. Don't set any formatting for this rule. We don't actually want to color anything when the switch is off. We just want to prevent the other rules from coloring. So leave the format blank and click OK. Now go back to the Manage Rules for this range. Conditional Formatting, and then Manage Rules. You'll see a new rule in the list, probably showing the formula with highlight switch. Click on that rule and click the box that says Stop if true. Also, make sure this rule is at the top of the rule list. Use the upward arrow button to move it above the other highlight rules if it isn't already. Stop if true means if this rule's condition is true, for example, the switch is off, Excel will stop processing any further conditional format rules for those cells. In other words, none of the highlighting color rules below will apply when this switch rule triggers. Click OK to close the manager. Right now, we set the switch to off, so try clicking around your sheet. The highlight should not appear at all, even though our earlier rules in VBA are still in place. They're being politely held back by the new stop rule. Now select On in the C1 dropdown. Bam! The highlighting instantly works again. Toggle it back to off and the highlight disappears. You've built a simple on-off switch for your feature. We made a nice drop-down switch, but how about we make it even easier? A single button click to turn the highlight on or off. Maybe you love big shiny buttons. Who doesn't? We can do that by writing a tiny VBA macro and assigning it to a button shape in the sheet. This will effectively do the same thing as flipping the dropdown, but in one click. It's also a bit more obvious to users. A big button that says Toggle Highlight is hard to miss. We'll create a small macro that switches the value of our highlight switch named Cell between on and off. Since we already enabled the Developer tab and opened the VBA editor, let's go back there. This time, instead of the worksheet code, we'll insert a standard module to hold our macro. So in the VBA editor, click Insert, then Module. You'll get a blank module window. In that module, start typing a new subroutine, sub toggle highlight. When you press enter, VBA will automatically end sub. This is the macro that will run when the button is clicked. Between the sub and end sub, we write a simple if-else to flip the switch. We can refer to our named cell highlight switch directly in code by using square brackets. Let's type this code inside the sub. This code says, with the cell named highlight underscore switch, if its value is off, change it to on. Otherwise, if it's on, change it to off. That's it. It just toggles the value back and forth. With the block, it is just a handy way to write fewer references to that cell. We've essentially made a light switch in code form. Now close the VBA editor and don't forget to save your work in the macro-enabled workbook. Now for the fun part. Let's put a button on the sheet. Actually, we'll insert a shape, like a rectangle shape, and just assign our macro to it, so it behaves like a button when clicked. Go to the Insert tab on Excel's ribbon. Click Illustrations or directly Shapes, depending on your Excel version, and choose a shape. For example, a nice rounded rectangle. Draw the shape on your sheet, maybe near the top so it's always visible. You can hold the Alt key while drawing to snap it to the cell grid neat. With the shape selected, start typing text. Just click the shape and type. Enter something like toggle highlight as the button caption. You can format the shape, maybe a bright fill color, rounded corners, and a bold text. Whatever looks good to you. Now right-click that shape and choose Assign Macro. In the Assign Macro dialog, you should see our Toggle Highlight macro in the list. Select it and hit OK. That's it. Your shape is now a clickable button that runs the macro. Give it a try. If your switch was off, clicking the Toggle Highlight button should change it to on, and you'll see your highlights appear. Click it again, it flips to off, and the highlight disappears. Magic. No need to even open the drop-down. One click does it. This button is basically a friendly interface for that drop-down. And remember to save your workbook again as macro-enabled to keep the macro and button. This last step is a quick bonus tip. It isn't about the highlight itself, but it's something that really complements it when dealing with larger spreadsheets. If you have a big data set, you often have header rows like column titles at the top, or key identifiers in the first column. When you scroll down or right, those can scroll off and leave you wondering what column X or what that row is. Two Excel features can help keep headers visible when you scroll. The Freeze Panes feature freezes the top rows or leftmost columns so they will stay visible as you scroll through the rest of your data. To use it, go to the View tab and click Freeze Panes. You have options like Freeze Top Row, which will always keep the top row in view, or Freeze First Column, so you can always freeze both at a specific point. For example, if you select cell B4 and choose Freeze Panes, Excel will freeze everything above and to the left of B4, meaning the first 3 rows and columns will stay put, acting like constant headers. This way, as you scroll down, your header row or titles remain at the top, and as you scroll right, your first column, which is ID, stays on the left. Just an alternative, that would be to turn your data range into an official Excel table. Just select your data range and then go to Insert, Table, or press Ctrl-T. Make sure to check My Table has headers in the dialog. When your data is an Excel table, as you scroll down, the column headers automatically stick to the top of the Excel window. They actually transform into the sheet's column letters area. This also keeps headers visible, and tables come with other perks like automatic formatting and easier formulas. Using freeze panes or tables doesn't directly affect the highlighting we set up, but it does make navigation easier. You can always see your headers, and combined with a highlighted row/column, you'll feel like you have a well-organized view even in a huge spreadsheet. Let's do some final formatting in cells B1 to D1. We've covered a lot, from basic manual highlighting to fancy automatic crosshairs with on-off controls. You've turned your Excel into a smart grid that knows where you are. Give yourself a pat on the back for sitting through this comprehensive tutorial. If you found this tutorial helpful and maybe even a little fun, do smash that like button and consider subscribing to the channel for more Excel tips and tricks. Your support lets me know that you want more of this kind of content. Have questions or comments? Drop them below. I'd love to hear your feedback and help you out if you get stuck. Also, check out the video description for a downloadable example workbook and other resources. Thanks for watching and coding along. Happy excelling, and I'll see you in the next video.